Welcome back to the class, the scientific writing class, and today's lecture will be about quick reading and note-taking. First of all, how do scientists read, or how should they actually read? They should always read with a critical mindset. They should never automatically accept an author's conclusion, but they should rather examine whether an experiment and its data and analysis support the claims of the author, or examine whether an argument and its theoretically and empirical background foundation is supported. They should focus on sections of the paper that will answer various questions, and also the potential is that you skim many papers with no definite question in mind. This might be questionable because you're losing time, but sometimes you want to get a new impulse from a different unit, but then you only skim it. Rarely, however, will scientists read an entire paper from start to finish unless it's of particular importance or unless it really grabs your attention right in the beginning. Most people will only read the abstract. When you read a scientific paper, you could ask yourself these questions while you're reading the paper. So what methods did the authors use? What prior work formed the basis for this paper? What literature did the authors cite? Does it include everything? Are the experimental data convincing, or are there big bugs? Were the data analyzed and interpreted fairly? What are the major conclusions of the study? So these are the questions you could ask yourself while you read a paper. Or you should ask yourself. Coming back to the literature search, how do you do this ideally? Because you need to identify these boundaries, and so you want to define what your research is about and what you want to read. So really you have to clearly define your research question and keywords, and you have to define if you're searching for the primary or the secondary literature. Then you use the literature database and key papers to identify potentially relevant literature, and then you quickly filter this identified literature for relevance. And as you can see here, most people will read the abstract, will partly read the conclusion, but then it kind of thins out. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to keep the memory in your brain and how to use it in your literature review process. We talked about how to use the software to manage your references. So ideally you have it all in one managing software. So you take notes while you're reading, take the information source, you identify the main points, you make post-its, for example. I showed you my example from the EndNote where you put a comment into the database directly. And so then it's very important that you use it in your introduction or background, you summarize it in your own word, you paraphrase. For example, you use in-text citations, or you do direct quotes while you use these quotation marks. This is very important, because if you do not do this properly, if you do it, let's say, lazily, just copy and paste, you end up with the potential of lazy plagiarism. So be very careful how you summarize this information in your own words, and how if you use in-text citations or direct quotations. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the quick read method. This method was presented by Professor Kurt Roth in the University of Heidelberg. It's the Department of Environmental Science, and we used to do these exercises in his working group where we would do quick read in 10 minutes and then talk about the papers. And here's some advice how to read quickly. So first of all, you get an overview. For example, you read the abstract or the summary. What is it about? What do I already know about it? What are the new points? If the field is new to you, it's best to start with an article, like a review article that gives you an overview of the entire new field. You should never start with a highly specialized article into a new field. That becomes quickly overwhelming. And then get the meat of the article. Look at the figures first. What do they show? Does this fit with my own understanding? Read the discussion, and you always think ahead. What will be the next statement? The explanation. Are all remarkable features of the figures covered? If necessary, check the specific points in the methods and results section, and the analysis is what are the central findings, how do they fit what I already know, and so on. So you see here it's a difference if you read passively, you just read it, or if you read with this very critical mindset that you are at the same time while you are reading, you are all asking these questions. Ideally you make marks about these questions. Some further details about the quick read method to digest literature. So as I told you before, the quick read is an exercise that you have to do to learn. And here are some more suggestions how you could exercise. For example, never read a section in its entirety for the first time. Read the first sentence of each paragraph or a narrow region down the middle of the entire column. So you're not reading like this, you're reading like this basically. Then you scan the article for keywords. Do not read all the supplementary language fast. Do not get caught, but keep on reading. Keep a constant progress reading. Don't go back to sentences you don't understand. Just keep on doing this progressive reading. Then during the reading, make these crucial points. After a section, make a short comment, for example, make a note, make the linkage between keywords like a mind map. All this helps you to build up a network of information in our brain, which is the key to remembering. And then last, this is hard training. As I said before, you have to exercise it. You will get tired. If you notice this, just leave. Go out, start again, stop, and do something else for a while. So about the note-taking and processing information, here's some further questions that you might ask yourself. So, do you really need this information? If so, which bits exactly? Will you really use it? When and how? Remember the chart of the literature? I showed you many snowballing. At the end, you have 2 papers left that are really essential for you. Have you noted similar information already? What questions do you want to answer with this information? So read with a critical mindset. And include your own thoughts, very important again. So periodically summarize important themes. For example, are they internally consistent or are there contradictions, open issues? How do different themes fit together? So this is all these own ideas about the topics question. Those are very important. Imagine a mind map. You're connecting this research that somebody else has done with your research. How do you think you could use this information in your work? Keep a log of relationships, cross-links between the sources. Make short notes for all the collected papers. Use your literature database as we discussed before. This could be any kind of software from EndNote to an Excel table to just a text log file. So again, do not just read passively, but try to read with these critical questions in your mind and try to make a mind map of the information you have to digest in which is relevant to your own research or to your paper. So last but not least, again the question, because periodically check this. Check your approach, how you are processing literature. Do you collect knowledge or just papers? Are my sources of information still adequate?